In the spring of 2004, I presented this talk to the Rockford College Philosophy Club. As I've grown older, I've been startled by the similarity between philosophy and art. The most striking connection is that they share the same essential subject matter, humanity and its context. For over 3 decades as an artist, I have studied people's body language and their facial expressions. I've asked models to physically express mourning for their dead. I have studied the inner workings of my psyche. There are a lot of voices in there, and I tried to make them all happy. I've studied light's reflection on water, on the earth, and in the sky. I've studied aesthetic ideas and works of many artists. My manifesto is a poetic conclusion about what I have learned so far. To enlighten, not to toss off obscure puzzles. To bless earth, not to damn existence. To impart the breath of life, not to draw degradation. To bring forth shimmering passion, not to wallow in despair. For this lecture, I would like to explain in more depth the positive elements of my manifesto. Perception, to bless earth reality. My art begins and ends with visual perception. Visual perception starts with looking at the real world with your own eyes. Most of my work is direct from life. Here is a lone cypress tree I drew while sitting on a Rhodian hillside in Greece. I could see subtle shifts of color hues of the grasses and how they seemed to caress the cypress. This is a pastel still life which I set up in my studio. Every mark of pastel I made was based on seeing directly and comparing the details of light and shadow. When I say ends with visual perception, I want the end product, the painting, to have the same living color vibrations that I had seen in real life. Speaking of his huge bather paintings, Cézanne has said that he wished he could have painted the large canvases outdoors by the river's edge and painted them direct from life. But the size of the canvas made it impossible. A gust of wind would be terribly inconvenient. I have a similar problem with a few of my larger works. To solve the problem, I keep one step away from direct perception. For example, with the slipper, the final painting is the integration of all the studies which are done from life. Here's a small drawing direct from a living model. I'm sitting on the floor at her feet. This is the view I wanted, but it would have been impossible to paint a life-size painting while sitting on the floor. All the other studies of her face, of the carpet and the bed were done from this perspective. I think as philosophers you will relate to the following. I remember reading Aristotle and that he made a comment that children should learn music. He thought it was a good idea because you couldn't stop them from making noise. So why not teach them music while they are doing something that comes naturally to them? His direct observation of children making noise gave an added irresistible ring of truth to his treatise on education. It has been said that artists are touched with a divine madness. I have experienced that special feeling on several occasions. The entire process of painting Pursuit was like that. It was actually very scary. I'd been working on Pursuit 16 hours a day, 7 days a week for 6 months. When I slept, I was dreaming about it. I had a real fear that I was losing my mind because I was totally immersed in the universe of the painting, that in some ways it seemed more real than reality itself. One morning at 5 or 6 a.m., I was taking the Staten Island ferry to have breakfast in Manhattan, and I was watching the glow of sunrise, and I realized that I wasn't crazy at all. Actually, the opposite, in fact. Because while painting Pursuit and making all the studies from life for it, I was in touch with reality, with the nature of light, of form, of human anatomy. I had this realization that day that I would never go crazy as long as I was clearly perceiving reality. Emotion, to bring forth shimmering passion. Once I was racked by 3 deaths of people close to me. I was emotionally frozen. To change that, I decided to do a series of drawings based on mourning. The first person I asked to pose for this theme was a model for a class I was teaching. He kind of freaked out when I asked him, and then he told me the story that his father had killed his mother and then committed suicide. Imagine doing a drawing based on loss and death with him. How deep I had to go to be truthful. And I had to respect and honor his horrible losses as well as my own. I will paint on my principal works years to capture a moment of love for existence. I will take an emotional theme for a painting and hold that emotion in my being while I'm painting it. This is a woman in blue. The theme for me is an irresistible feeling of contentment. This is Blythe. It's about joyful abandon. Notice the wiggling toes and the tilt of the chair. I always thought that if she fell over, she would be laughing at the fun of it all. Holding the emotion and the emotional theme feels something like giving it a bath and caressing it without any outside disturbances. This is absorption. This is the way I feel when I have exhausted myself painting. I feel tired and yet I feel exultingly alive. Both the effort and the content are complementary for me. If I'm going to paint thousands of hours on a work, it needs to be for a wonderful emotional goal. If I'm painting something wonderful, it's worthwhile putting a lot of time into it to get it right. This is synergy. It's about flow. The man is joined with a convergence of light and water, merging his life force with the world around him. And this is Slipper, an explosion of joy. Method: to impart the breath of life. Getting a painting to come alive requires technical excellence. Painting is a visual form. Of course, the images will evoke symbolic, cultural, and psychological associations, but the overwhelming import is purely visual. A painter's sole method of communicating is through visual means. For the painter, it's worthwhile to master as many visual technical skills as humanly possible. Some years ago, I met two of the world's leading vision scientists, Jan Konderink and Andrea van Doorn. I mentioned once that I thought to write an aesthetic book on the art of form, light, and space. They told me that they were planning a book on the science of form, light, and space. Form, light, and space are as fundamental as you can get in art and in visual perception. Here's chocolate boxes. Notice the shimmer of light on the water and on the tin brocade of the chocolate boxes. You can sense the three-dimensionality of the form of the boxes. And notice how the fold of material in the upper right-hand corner really feels like it is back in space. I feel I solved the form, light, and space issues elegantly here. But an artist is not limited to those technical aspects. Movement, color, anatomy, proportion, composition, eye movement, stylization, perspective, technical/method theme integrated with the subject. All of these are skills that an artist doesn't have to use, but on the other hand, integrating them all successfully is within the possible. This list of skills should drive home the point that the art of figurative painting has unlimited possibilities. Ideals: to enlighten, to exalt. As a creator, I have sought to express the best within myself. Often I find that life imitates art. When I'm working on the theme of joy, and I don't happen to feel joy that day, I have to seek out, dig deep, and excavate that joy and bring it to the surface. By the end of the day, indeed, I have experienced joy. In my personal response to art, I have often experienced that an artwork has gotten me to see something new, to see something in a fresh way, or to feel something that I've never felt before. In response to great romantic works, I'm often inspired to tackle and succeed my most treasured goals. Oprah Winfrey has said, "Create the highest, grandest vision possible for your life because you become what you believe." Many times I think the world is not nice nor beautiful. Many times it seems that the world's leaders and even the media have agendas that are not remotely pure. I see many artists express pain, discontent, and anger. And though I understand it, it's not my way. Why it is not my way is because my job is to show solutions. My job is to offer a beacon of hope, of joy, and a love for light. I think the job of showing solutions also rests with philosophers. And I think the world desperately needs philosophers with a passion for this earth, for enlightenment, for breathing life into ideas, and for joy.